resisting arrest and people saluting it as an indication of your masculinity, that you're kind of saluting black oppression in the past. Are we supposed to say that black men need to get over that? And then the question is, would there be a point? It's kind of like saying that people need to stop using the N-word as a term of affection. You know, you can have a nice panel about it, but it's not. One I was talking to a black audience in DC, and I was suggesting that, you know, this business of going to pieces every time somebody uses the N-word, one way that we might get past that is to just stop going to pieces and have the pride to understand that some word cannot make us cry. And it wasn't a tough session, but one black guy said, well, I hear what you're saying, brother, but, you know, I'm a tough motherfucker. I like to get up and get angry. And he stood up. And the whole room starts clapping, especially the women. And I get it. I understand the humor. I understand the cultural strain. You know, I'm not that deracialized. But the other side of that is something like Ahmaud Arbery trying to take the gun, or I've already said it, Dante Wright trying to jump into the car instead of just standing there and taking what he was about to be given. He shouldn't have been killed, but still. And
Shame TV, your host. The reason I'm going to pause here is because I did want to interject that what he's saying is actually true and accurate. I agree with it. And I also agree with the age-old saying that two things can be true at the same time. And what he's overlooking, in my opinion, is merely that we're different. Some brothers are born to be soldiers and warriors. So some who really are the BM, the bad mother, you know, that's who that person really is, bro. And their job is to show a visual, to give a visual example of resistance, because resistance may end up becoming, you know, a physical interaction at some point. So his people, his kind, needs to see what that looks like, good or bad. They just need to see someone like themselves resisting. And what happens is you develop better ways of doing it, but it still has to be done. But I also agree with his premise of, hey, listen, if I can talk my way out of it, which I totally agree with, I'll talk my way out of it.
If the idea is going to be it's the proper black thing to resist, and how dare you kill somebody when they do it, there's just nowhere to go from there. And yet I can tell part of it is the idea that to resist arrest is to be a soldier. That's what somebody with balls does. That's the black thing to do. He's not some namby-pamby white guy who just says, yes, officer. I don't know what to do with that.
It's the point. I'm glad he actually did point on it, but he still didn't take it to the level that I'm taking it to. Meaning, that's what a soldier is someone, some people can become soldiers, but that's what most soldiers are born to do. That's why they're taken to it and drawn to it and do it for life, because that's what they are. It's not it's not a thing to do just for a sense of bravado for a real soldier, especially in our community, or especially a soldier who's actually facing adversity, real adversity. Because to take on that undertaking, first of all, you're admitting to possible death or lifelong imprisonment. So it's not something that is taken lightly. So there's really nothing for you to do with it except play your part. Like, that's what a lot of us are not realizing, is that we all have parts to play. This brother has a part to play with his message. His message is a valuable message to be shared. It must be also known that being resistant and being, a valiant soldier for your people is also needed, and something that's going to happen and always is going to happen. But again, I agree with both premises, but I'm leaning towards now, if he's speaking more to let's say he's speaking more to people doing it for show or everybody doing it. Everyone can't have that mentality. You know what I mean? Like, that's for the soldiers. That's not for everyone. And I totally agree with that. And it should not be something that we do first. You know, until we actually have a standing army or something of the like, you shouldn't just all automatically be jumping up like that, because you're just going to get picked off.
Know whether there's any point in saying that something should change. I'm not a badass motherfucker, clearly. And so I'm certainly not the one who's going to say, stop acting like one. I don't know what to do with it, but clearly it's part of it. It's the black guy's thing to resist.
Well, John,
I don't know.
I'll tell you, I'm working on the memoir. I really am, John. I'm trying to catch up with you. Maybe if my book sells more than the sum of your books have sold, I would feel like I have pulled even with you. I'm praying. I'm just kidding. But I am in the grips of writing the memoir. So here's one thing that I've discovered about myself, and this is my way of supporting what you just said about badass motherfuckers. So in the 1980s, I got into trouble with cocaine. I got into trouble with an extramarital affair. I was in the habits of roaming the streets of inner city Boston, Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, buying drugs, hooking up, doing all kinds of crazy
Dorchester.
stuff. The most benign of it was playing chess until 3 o'clock in the morning on the street corner with a guy called Eddie, who used to make his living by selling little trinkets off of a tabletop in front of a Korean greasy spoon. Me and Eddie were buddies, and he loved to play chess. He loved to play 5-minute chess, and we'd get out there and we'd play. But that was the most benign of it. I was hanging in the hood with my peeps. I'm a professor at Harvard, hanging in the, 35 years old, hanging in the hoods with my peeps. 37 years old, 40 years old, hanging in the hood with my peeps.
Now, this point and the point that this brother Glenn is making goes right back to the original narrative, and this is where I agree with him. Bro, you're clearly not supposed to be doing that. Like, yo, stay in your lane, start making connections and making moves for your people in your lane. This is what I told, again, this is why I said two things can be right and correct at the same time. So this is where I agree with him. Like, this is where the badass mother effer is a detriment, because you have someone who is not in the lane of the bad A mother effer, but they're looking at it as, hey man, the people who are, they look cool and they get this and they get that, and so I want, like, that's where it becomes a bad thing. You see what I mean?
Because I was a badass motherfucker because I could negotiate a seminar room over in Cambridge at the Kennedy School of Government by day, and a housing project where just about anything you wanted could be purchased for a price by night, and no one was the wise. I was a badass motherfucker. I was like Superman. I would go into that telephone booth and I'd put on my uniform, cock my hat to the side, pull my collar up, get my walk together, get my slang, my code switching thing, you know how it is. And I could hang. I was authentically black. John, you wrote a book with that title. I was authentically black because I could hang in the hood. Now, how fucked up was that? Okay? That's why y'all need to buy the memoir. W.W. Norton and Company, spring of 2022. How messed up was that? So I am familiar with the syndrome. All right? I know what you're talking about. It's a disaster is what I have to report from my own experience. It is an absolute, suppose I had been gunned down. I was robbed several times at gunpoint in these years over there on the streets of Boston. Suppose I had lost my life to some...
I'm going to stop here because that's basically the point of the video. I agree on both sides, and I agree that your lane should be your lane. His example is spot on. Like, bro, you could have been killed when you're supposed to be mixing and maneuvering in a whole nother lane. but it appears that being a tough, bad mother effer is, you know, the way to go because it makes you seem cooler and more appealing. When you should, well, not should, I don't like saying that to people, but it'd be more preferable for you and for everyone else if you just stayed in your lane. If someone's born to be a bad A mother effer, they do things like the sniper guy did, or they do things, excuse me, like the ex-military brother did when they're getting the shootouts with him. That's a soldier, man. He's gonna die on his shield. They don't know no other way. You can't expect them to think the way you think, because that's not their job. Their job was to be the protector of the people. We just don't have an organized standing army that would have given most people who think like that a better opportunity to develop their skills, a better opportunity to develop more sense of countrymen and love for their people, etc., and develop skills to protect themselves. So it's all in disarray. But one thing I do agree with a part of the video I didn't put in was the Thomas Sowell part, when they were laughing at him, because Thomas Sowell is a very interesting fellow. I may do a Shame TV of the week on him. Consciousness, This Week in Consciousness on him, because that type of rhetoric is so easily dominated and beaten. But that's about it, guys. Shame TV.